Many traders think that to improve an expert advisor, you need new indicators, different strategies, or more complex parameters. But often that's not the case. Sometimes it's enough to change just one thing, just change the exit time from the trade. Because many multi-day systems that keep positions open for several consecutive days, sometimes, if transformed into intraday systems, meaning systems that operate within the same day, opening and closing positions within the same day, perhaps at a certain time instead of at a target or at the target, become much more stable and profitable. And today I'll explain how to turn a multi-day system into an intraday system. Welcome everyone, I'm Andrea, your automated trader, and if you like what I do, leave a nice like. On the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos I'll publish. So let's start with the basics. What's the difference between a multi-day expert and an intraday one? The multi-day, as I mentioned, works over several days, so it opens a position, maybe today, and holds it for 2, 3, 4, or 5 days until it reaches its target and closes it. By doing this, then, this expert has to deal with swaps because every day you have to pay the swap, and it also has to endure market gaps. When the markets reopen, we encounter events that we can't control, because if the market is closed, we can't manage it. And if the gap is very large, we can also incur relatively significant losses, much bigger than what the stop loss would be, obviously. So what does an intraday EA do instead? It works entirely within the day, so it opens a position today and closes it today. It can close it in two ways, let's say. It can close because it has reached the target, or because the session has ended and we close the position anyway. This means we have no overnight positions, no swaps, no weekends to deal with, and above all, no gaps. So the time-related risk is completely controlled. This is not just an operational difference, but also a statistical one. Because obviously when you limit the exposure time of the trade, you are also changing all the statistics behind your system. You are changing the distribution of the results. So, with an expert in 3-day trading, you have 3 possible exit scenarios, let's say. One is that I exit because I reach the target, okay? The second is that I exit at a specific time, so I don't even set a target. And I exit because it's 10 p.m. The third is to close the position because the session is over. So, before the 24-hour mark of your broker, I go and close my position no matter how it went, whether positive or negative. This is clearly a huge difference because when you introduce a time-based exit, you are drastically cutting the tails of your trade distribution. And very often this reduces the drawdown, lowers the volatility of the equity, and increases the stability of the system. Now I want to show you the practical part, so let's look at the code because in the code it's much simpler than you might think. Creating an expert advisor, whether intraday or multi-day. It's really just a few lines of code. The expert advisor we're about to open is the one we created in the previous videos, so the one from our series, which we made for educational purposes. So if you haven't seen the series, I recommend you go back and watch it because that's exactly where we're starting from now. This is the code, the one for our expert advisor that we had named. Prova YouTube, so it's always the same one. How do we go about adding this parameter that allows us to use it? Intraday or multi-day? First of all, in the input parameters, I have added these 3 lines. So we need a Boolean variable to decide whether we close positions at a certain time. Always every day, so we use the expert advisor in intraday mode, or if we leave it set to false. It becomes a multi-day expert that only closes at stop or target, regardless of the trading days. This is the closing time. I set it close to the session's closing time. Then you need to check what you're using it on because not everything closes at midnight. There might be instruments that close at 11 p.m., so you should set it close to 11 p.m. It's always better to set it a few minutes earlier. There's no need to set it to 24 o'clock. So let's go down into our code. And in OnTick, I added this block. What does this do? Block? First, we get the total number of positions. Basically, this is a block that goes through each position and looks for the position that my expert opened. With my magic number, and at the time I've set, I go and close it. So I have the total positions, which is the total number of positions that are open on MetaTrader. Then I save the ticket, which is in oolong format, and what do? I have an if statement. If this is true, so if I want to use it in intraday mode, obviously I have to go through the whole cycle and close all the positions that my expert has opened. What do I check? I check that the time is after the close time, so it has to be equal to or greater than the close time because it needs to be after the time I set to close the positions. After that, I run 2 for loops. This is the first one, and I do it just for safety because sometimes a tick might be missed or something like that. I want to be sure that at this time I actually close the positions, so I save the ticket. I check that the magic number of the position is equal to the magic number of my expert advisor. If this is confirmed, I close the position. In this line, I'm closing the position with the ticket I saved earlier. So, as you can see, like I said, it's really just a few lines of code, then everything else is the same. Let's try to compile, and we have an error. Let's see why we have this error. Where is the error? It's here. Here basically is the function that checked if we had open positions, which is also similar to the one for closing, because we use the same things, and so we've initialized the total number of positions we have in MetaTrader twice. In this case, since we already do it earlier, we don't need to do it here anymore. Otherwise, obviously, we get the error, because it's already saved from the initial part of our code anyway. So the total number of positions is always the same. It changes with every tick, but it's always the same within onTick. Let's try compiling now. We still have an error. The ticket as well. Clearly, we've named it the same way. In both functions, so it's already been initialized earlier, so we remove it. And everything works perfectly. So now, if you want to use the expert, when you're in MetaTrader, if you activate this position closing to true, you know you're using it in intraday mode. If you leave it set to false, it's in multi-day mode. This is what allows you to also run tests and see how your expert works best. Now, it's important to mention one thing. Not all systems, of course, improve by switching from multi-day to intraday, but many do. Especially those that suffer from drawdown, long periods of stagnation, dangerous overnight exposure, or have high variability between different days. Clearly, by reducing the trade's exposure time, you also reduce the uncertainty associated with that trade. And less uncertainty. Statistically, this usually translates into greater system stability. In automated trading, simplicity almost always wins. If you've watched the whole video now, you'll be able to create an expert that can work both intraday and multi-day. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to send it to a friend on WhatsApp because that's how important information gets around. See you in the next video.